Hi, it's KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and for those watching the video, they already know, but look, everybody, it's Dan Knight, jazz pianist. Dan, welcome.
Oh, it's great to be here. It feels like it's been forever, but then it feels like I never went away.
Dan is
It's so good to
recently
see you.
relocated back to Iowa after a decade in North Carolina teaching and performing, correct?
Yes, exactly, exactly. I had a 2-year appointment at UNC Charlotte, and they were going to continue that, but the board of governors dropped my job line. So yeah, so I did a little bit of scurry, and it was really kind of cool because the University of North Carolina School of the Arts snapped me up. So I finished the rest of my career there, and I retired. So what a concept! Yeah. And then my wife and I, Julie and I, made it back to Iowa as fast as we could get here.
Well, and you say retired, but in your case, retires doesn't mean you're going to stop playing. Just maybe, maybe picking and choosing the gigs a little bit more, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it means I get a check from the University of North Carolina. So that's a
Oh,
good thing.
even better.
Yes, yes, yeah,
Now, let's
yeah.
go back. I want to go back a couple of years because during the dark time, especially early on in the pandemic, you were a bright spot for so many of your friends and fans, not just where you were, not just here, but like all over the world, when you sat down at the piano every day for the first 365 days when, there wasn't any live music happening and played a song for all your friends on social media.
Oh, well, that was a real joy for me, basically, because all of this madness and sickness and death was happening all around us, and Julie and I felt sequestered and quarantined and isolated, and and I thought to myself, just like, what can I do? I can play. So so I said, let's just try to give that as a gift, and if it hits, then if it makes me happy, then hopefully it will make somebody else happy too. So so that was a real blessing for me as well.
I tuned
It
in
was a great.
so many days to hear you, hear just a little bit of Dan during a time when there was so little music going on. As you think back on those 365 performances, are there any that stick out in your mind of tunes or songs or days that you remember as just kind of being a central part of that whole process?
Yeah, there's one thing in particular that I think of now. It's like we were hitting a part where uh, where where one of the pedals of my piano was squeaking really, really, really badly. It was just getting to the point where it's just obnoxious, and we couldn't call anybody. We couldn't call a piano tuner or a technician to come take care of our piano. So Julie and I jacked up our piano on our own, knocked the pedal casing off, knocked the pedal stand off, fixed the pedal stand, put it back together, and played 2 songs after we got done with that. So so there's so there was that. There was these like little these syncretic kind of things that where Julie and I had to pull together, and then there were a few moments that just caught for me. Uh, I remember playing "Smile," "Smile though your heart is breaking, smile though your heart is aching," and I thought about playing that at Montreux, and all my friends there, and it's really kind of cool because the way I play, I connect things, and images, and memories, and places, and times, and people, and it's like if you're a Scot, of course, which I am, Scots Irish, uh, you bring all of that back to you. So it's all like all bang syne. So every time I revisit these songs, I revisit the people who asked me to play them. So uh, so it's just exponentially good from that point. So everything was good for me. It was all just kind of that
Well,
disconnecting.
speaking of walk down memory lane, you're going to do that, I suspect, a little bit with your first Iowa show since you moved away, coming up
Yes,
at the Englert Theatre this Friday.
yes, yes, and I can't wait to be back. Um, I've missed this so much. I've missed Iowa. I've missed Iowa City. I've missed Cedar Rapids. I've missed my friends. I've missed these people who have been a part of my life for so long, and these friends and family who are are family by choice, you know. So I couldn't have done anything that I've done in the world without this community, without Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, because so many wonderful things and connections to all these great things around the world pretty much happened because of here, because I was here in this space at this time, and um, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. But I owe all of these folks an incredible debt of gratitude. So I want to pay some of that back, hopefully on Friday night.
The show is called An Evening with Dan Knight, solo piano.
Solo piano. We're going to have a couple of little surprises for folks. We're working on that right now, so we don't want to announce them too soon. But yeah, so it's going to be solo piano. Basically, Marsha Hughes for sure is going to come and be with us or with me. So we'll have that going. I'm going to play some Ellington, some Gershwin, some variations on some classical themes that I put together. Basically, things that I love to play. Do requests. There's going to actually be some requests. So we're going to have a request card when people come to walk into the Englert, so they can sign a request card, and they're going to put it in a box or in a basket or something. And then midway through the second part of the show, I'm going to start pulling things out and then play them on stage. So and there are a few requests we have that have come in that are de rigueur. So some things I know I want to play for folks right away. So it's going to be that. It's going to be fun. It'll be like spending an evening with me, without the long stories.
Just like hanging with Dan in his living room, only it's the world's biggest living room.
Yes, exactly that.
So, over the 356 days that you played different songs online, I'm wondering if has that informed your repertoire any? Have there been new songs that have come to the fore, old songs you'd kind of forgotten? Was there anything that'll be a part of this show that is something that came to your attention or returned to your attention during that time?
Yeah, um, I think Leonard Cohen doing Hallelujah. Um, I did that. I did that twice. I did it the first time, and it got just like an immense response. So I waited another couple of weeks and then sang it and added a verse and did it again. And the response was just astounding. I mean, we got thousands and thousands of responses, and it got airtime and made it onto YouTube, and it was Instagram, and it was just kind of mind blowing. So I'm going to do some of those kind of things. I think I'm going to add some Leonard Cohen, and then there's some classical pieces that I have redone. So there are variations on the theme by um, fill in the blank. So variations on the theme by Schumann. Uh, so variations on the theme by Mendelssohn. There's a piece from Midsummer Night's Dream that I absolutely love. It's called Nocturne, and it's written for brass. And the way you hear most German brass orchestras do it is like da, 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 da. It's like not exactly sleep time music, you know. so uh, so so I do it my own way, which is actually the old way. It's kind of like what classical musicians used to do. So so some of those variations will show up for sure, and the
You've
variations on themes by classical works, and but not just classical works, variations, my own variations on jazz pieces.
you've
So
always not bounced in between. That's not the term I'm thinking about. Well, classical music has always influenced your jazz performances, and I'm thinking of the commission you did some years ago with Mussorgsky's pictures in an exhibition, and and so many times. What parts of classical pieces do you think are linked closely to jazz?
that's a really great question, um, because ultimately what it comes down to is a matter of form, and And if you listen to Chopin, the way Chopin put his form and structure together and then built it into a piece, I didn't understand until I read Gary Gidding's book about Chopin that Chopin improvised everything that he wrote. And he improvised it and improvised it and improvised it until the improvisation became solidified and he became really happy with it. And once he was happy with it, then he wrote the arrangement down. So some of his most famous pieces now are pieces that he wrote and didn't have them published in his lifetime because they were too precious to him. So the waltz in E flat is a perfect example of that. And so basically, what I do is start with the form and structure, listen to the form and structure of a piece. Same thing with jazz and with classical music, and then I see what in that sings to me. And sometimes I leave the notes where they are, and sometimes I change them. So basically, what I do is I look at all of these pieces of music like a cookbook, the piece of music is a recipe. So if some of you are very, very, very good cooks out there, you go, well, wow, this is really cool because I understand it. So you'll look at a recipe and go, wow, that says 3/4 of a cup of sugar. I think maybe that might be a little too much. I might just add a half. And then the thing starts changing, and the next thing you know, it's not just the recipe that you're doing, but it's you. It's your interpretation of it. It's your particular taste. So I think what's important as musicians is that maybe we look toward the piece of music as a recipe. And especially if you're a solo artist, you have all the opportunity to do that. The more you add more people to the whole thing, the less it becomes fluid. So I guess maybe that's why I like to play solo piano because I can go where I feel directed at the time and the place.
Chef Dan will be cooking up a full program for the first time in so many years. It's going to be so great to be able to hear you live, Dan. It's this Friday at the Englert Theatre, an evening with Dan Knight. Tickets still available at englert.org. Well, Dan, I know that, and we didn't talk about this at the beginning, but you and your wife Julie have relocated actually to central Iowa, so you're working out of Ankeny, Des Moines right now, but we sure hope to see you in this side of the state as often as we can.
Oh, I can't get there often enough, and I've said this over and over again. I could live in 1,000 different cities, but Iowa City, Cedar Rapids will always be my home. It will always be my home. So thanks for the opportunity to come home. I can't wait.
Tickets for An Evening with Dan Knight are available at englert.org. If you'd like more information, you can visit or call them. And Dan, once again, glad to have you back in the neighborhood, and hope things go well on Friday.
Oh, bless you. Couldn't love you more. Thank you for KCCK and all you've done for me all of these years. Can't wait to say thanks in person.
You can hear the Culture Crawl live on the radio many weekdays at 10:30, or download the podcast, watch or listen on your own schedule at kcck.org/culture or using your favorite podcast player. I'm Dennis Green, and I'll talk to you later.